In this clip, we're going to begin adding lights to our scene and creating the overall mood that we want to give to the player. So right now we have just the directional light in the scene. I want to select the directional light and I'm going to point it up to create a night skybox. If we hit E on the keyboard and grab our rotational tool, we can rotate this up and you'll see that it changes the skybox. Now I do want to have a little bit of light from the skybox, so I'm going to rotate it almost until it comes straight back. And what we should see is a little bit of this glow in the background. Now the reason that I want that is because I want to give some sort of hint that there are lights coming from a city in the distance. And so in this case, we are going to, actually let's turn it around to where it's, I don't really want to shine lights inward. Now we'll take care of that here in just a minute. I do want it to show that light back here. So let's do something like this. And we'll get a little bit of that color in our ambient and environment lighting. However, the problem that we're going to have is that this light is going to show up, and I really don't want that. So what we can do is we can go to our light settings and we can just use this directional light to change the skybox itself. So let's go to Window, Lighting, Light Settings. Let's go ahead and left click and drag on the tab, and I'm going to dock it here next to the inspector. And here we have our scene panel in the lighting settings. You'll notice that the skybox material is this default skybox, which is already in the scene, but we need to set up the sun source. In this case, I'm going to click on the selection and use the directional light. Now what I can do with this directional light selected, I can go to the inspector and actually turn it off so it's not giving any light. However, it's still representing the skybox. Now, we don't have any light in the scene and we want to create something. We want to be able to see. The player wouldn't be able to enjoy the level or the environment that we've created for them. And so now we're going to start bringing in some of these point lights. So what I want to do is I want to go in and go to Create, Light, Point Light. Here what I'm going to do is I want to create a mood. Now we could use just white lights and be done with it, but I really want to paint what our environment looks like. It's good to use color in your lighting. Lighting is not typically white at all. So let's go to color, and I'm going to use kind of a blue color, kind of like this. And then I'm going to bring it above my environment enough to where it's not obvious where the source is. And then we're going to adjust the range. So how far this light is going to be able to emit to. And we're going to create something that's just very soft. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control C and Control V to duplicate it. I'm going to move another one right over in here. Maybe even make some adjustments to the overall position in the Y. And let's select this one again and hit Control C, Control V, and put one right over here. So what we're doing is we are setting the mood. We want this to feel like it is at night, that it's a cooler value, and so it kind of gives us this idea of secrecy. In and of itself, blue is not enough. We really need a color to contrast with it, something to complement it. And so here's where a little bit of color theory begins to come in. So blue and orange are complementary colors, and we want to use a hue of orange. We might even go a little bit more red in that. So let's go ahead and duplicate this point light, Control C, Control V, and I'm going to put this kind of in the background a little bit and a little bit higher, and then I'm going to change its color, and we're going to go down to the red values, and then I'm going to go something a little bit pinkish and maybe even draw that up into the orange values a little bit. So something like this. Now what this is doing is just starting to splash in some different color. I'm going to duplicate that, hitting Control C and Control V. And I'm just going to start to place this color into the scene. I'm going to make sure that we're not being so obvious. And we're going to place this here, kind of in the background here. So kind of if the player were to come in and we were playing the game and we're moving around, we would see those little highlights of that color in there. So something kind of like this. Now what I want to do is I want to directly affect the light sources themselves. So what I mean is we want to create some sort of light source that makes sense to the player. These lights are really just about mood and appealing to the eye. So now what I want to do is I want to bring in some sort of light source that represents fire. So like our character has created these fires to light this small little area. So let's go ahead and use point lights again, and I'm going to hit Control-C, Control-V, and then we're just going to change the color to an orange color like this. And so here we can see that we have this light source, and I just want to place it kind of in this area here, just to kind of illuminate here, perhaps even right up against this area, kind of like the lantern, and that would really kind of show off the statue a little bit. Control-C, Control-V, and we'll come over here, maybe place another lantern over here, and then perhaps one over on this side. Now one thing that you're going to notice as you start to add more and more lights in, you're going to notice that some of the objects appear as though they're not being influenced by some of these lights. And this is where we're going to start getting into light optimization. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about this in just a minute, but I really want to get the overall mood and really start to kind of dial in the overall range and the colors that we want to use. So looking at these three lights, I think it would be beneficial to bring their range down. So bring their range down that is a little bit more manageable, but then we can go ahead and bring up the intensity. So something like this. So we would have a fire. It would make sense that it would move out into these areas, but wouldn't really affect all of this. So this looks good. Now it would also make sense if we came in and we added our prefabs, like our lanterns, in this place. So what I would do is add in like a barrier, kind of like this, and then we'll bring in our lantern object, and then I'm going to place this above the barrier, so that way it's sitting right on top of that. There we go. And then I'm going to select this light source and just kind of place it just above that. I don't really want it in it, but above it. So something like this. Okay. And then we'll just select those two pieces. We'll Control-C and Control-V to duplicate. Copy and paste. And then we'll place this one in here. Kind of like that. And then make the adjustments to the light itself. Okay. And then we'll do it one more time. All right, so now we kind of have these in place, and now it makes a little bit more sense as to where these lights are actually coming from instead of just being floating. Awesome. So we've just come in, we've created a mood for our light, and we can see exactly what we're working with, and we can begin to kind of start to refine the overall lighting itself. We have some problems with it, and I'm going to talk about the different ways that we can optimize these lights and actually talk about what is happening in the scene.